Okay. Hello everyone. This is Watching the Movies. This is going to be a bit of a change of pace from the rest of the podcast. If you don't know, I usually have two co-hosts with me, and I show them movies to try to turn them into film buffs and so on. But this is going to be a separate thing where I review movies by myself because my co-host sometimes can't watch a new movie every week, or they just don't want to. But yeah, new movies always get us more attention, and that's all I ever want is more attention. Um, God, this is really weird. I'm talking to myself, and I have a little script here, and I feel like I sound so robotic right now. The film I will be reviewing today is Rebecca.
The terrace is for guests only.
Monsieur, the young lady will be joining me.
What did you do?
I'm a lady's companion.
Maxim de Winter. His wife died last year and is in dire need of company.
Okay, so this is a spoiler-free zone. Yeah, so I've never actually seen the original Rebecca. So I kind of did like a double feature of the original Rebecca and this one. And I gotta say, the original Rebecca is amazing. It's fantastic. It's a masterpiece, I would say, as many people do. So I kind of like lost any sort of hope that the remake would be anywhere near it. So my expectations were lowered for it a lot. They were already kind of like not that high anyway, but I knew it wasn't going to be as good going into it, and maybe that had something to do with how bland I found this whole thing. I thought it was very tedious, and it felt like a chore to get through. What the weirdest thing to me is that this is actually kind of a similar running time to the original Rebecca. It's actually a little bit shorter, I think, like a few minutes shorter, but it feels a lot longer. It drags on a lot, and I think part of the problem was that they decided to elongate certain scenes. Like there's a scene in a ballroom that kind of cuts away in the original, and here we had some time on it. It also adds elements to it, like there's a new character who's the maid, the handmaid, I guess, to the new Mrs. De Winter. And there's also like sort of nightmare sequences that Lily James has, and it all sort of like adds up to nothing. It doesn't really add anything to the story. It feels like it's kind of detracting from like the main points of the story, and we're just like adding all this fluff. It's just kind of character interactions that really don't matter, or that could be shortened a lot more, that could be cut down to its essentials. But it's just becomes this, like meandering sort of thing that doesn't add anything, and it's not very interesting to watch. I think the actors are great in their own right. I think Armie Hammer is great in Call Me by Your Name, and Lily James is great in Cinderella and Baby Driver. But here they're just kind of left to do nothing. They're very bland in this. They have no chemistry with each other. It's very hard to buy that they're in a relationship with each other, and it's just they deliver lines with really like, okay, we're just getting this over with. I feel like that's sort of, I think that's probably how the whole movie was like, let's just, we're doing this for a paycheck for Netflix, let's just get this over with. And I don't know really what this is going for. I think it's trying to be like a modern erotic thriller, kind of like 50 Shades of Grey. I think it's trying to copy 50 Shades of Grey a lot. I think it's mimicking it quite a bit in its style and its presentation, in the score even. Like I feel like I would hear this from the 50 Shades of Grey soundtrack. And the way that I've never read the book, so maybe this is more book accurate, but the sort of relationship between Maxim and his second wife is much more like the relationship in with Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson in 50 Shades Grey in this version of the movie. It's a lot more like, someone's, it's painted in that way a lot more. Even in the way that it's shot, it's kind of shot with like this really like dreary, drab color palette that is just boring to look at. It's really not like a visual feast, which is a shame because the original one, I'm comparing it to the original one a lot. The original one has such great camera work and such great use of lighting, and that's probably, that's a very Hitchcock thing, that he just has great uses of shadows and stuff. But this is just kind of like it's shot in a very sort of generic like studio mid studio thriller way, and there's really not much to it. In this version of the movie, there's no intensity, there's no stakes, there's no tension in any of the scenes, which the original is filled with. And if you haven't seen the original, and if you're planning on watching this, I feel like you should just watch the original, either for the first time or again, because this really isn't worth your time. It just kind of feels like one of those Netflix movies that if this wasn't based on Rebecca, like if it was just some generic title, you'd probably skip it over, and for good reason, because there's really not much to this at all. It's not aggressively bad, but it's not particularly good either. So it's just kind of mediocre. So thumbs down from me. It's yeah. I mean it was a chore. It was a chore to get through. Honestly, yeah. I wanted to stop watching after a while. Yeah. So, that's the review. I hope it wasn't too bad to listen to it. I've never actually talked by myself. It's kind of a challenge to do that. But yeah, I hope you listen to the other episodes of the podcast. Right now we're doing slasher films from the 70s and 80s. So that should be fun. We have a few of those episodes already up. And thanks for listening.
You didn't know her. Nobody did.
You can't go on living in that big old house with a ghost.
I don't believe in ghosts.